I was living in my own flat in town at this point, and I had a flatmate living with me. That flatmate was actually my childhood friend. We were grown up, and we actually liked living together because we knew each other very well, and we could reminisce about our childhood. But we had already been hanging out together for years anyway, leading up to this point. The problem was, though, from both parties, it was never really quiet. There was always someone else staying there as well. If it wasn't my flatmate's girlfriend, it would be one of my other friends staying. But then during the day and into the night, there would always be someone else at the flat hanging out with my flatmate. That could be up to 3 other people, although it was the same with me though. We both love hanging out with others as well as ourselves. Sometimes it did get a bit worrying because while I was at work, I didn't know what was happening at home. But my flatmate tried to keep any rowdiness under wraps. The last thing I wanted was another complaint about noise. Our neighbour to the left of us didn't like us because apparently we were all too noisy. I mean, we probably were, but we kinda couldn't help it. Did she expect us to whisper or creep around my unit on our tippy toes? There was no way anyone was going to do that. One afternoon, I was at home and we had a few friends over, and I remember my car and another friend's car was parked out the front of the unit. Everything was swell until someone looked out the window and said there was a big group of guys walking up the street yelling. When this kind of thing happens, I would normally lock my doors and sit quiet until they would leave, but because there was a heap of us there that day, that wasn't going to happen. One of my friends now yells out saying 2 of the guys out on the street was near my car. Apparently they'd slashed my front passenger side tyre. That made a heap of my mates angry and they walked outside to confront them. But they were soon met with 4 more guys from further away. I was too afraid to step outside to say anything or do anything, but my friends knew that, so they wanted to protect me. But instead, they drew all the attention to my house. Next thing, there was a massive street brawl going on outside, and it was getting pretty ugly. There was no one inside except for me, my flatmate's girlfriend, and one of my other mates' girlfriends. We were scared. I wasn't 100% sure if my neighbours were home at this point or not, but I really did hope that they weren't. I knew the neighbour to the right wasn't home. I just wasn't sure about the annoying neighbour to the left. Not long after everything outside had started, the police actually showed up. I wonder who called the police. It wasn't us. It was probably one of the neighbours. None of my mates really got hurt. The other guys suffered more, and my mates all explained what had happened, but unfortunately, no one was arrested or charged, and everyone was just told to move on. I put in a statement about my tyre, but nothing was ever done about it because we didn't know who actually did it. I had to end up replacing it myself. After the police left, everything went really quiet. I actually wanted some of my friends to leave because of the way I was feeling. Everyone agreed and had left, except for a few of us, and we had a quiet night from there. After all of that was forgotten, 3 days later, that morning I was at home and I heard a knock at the door. I answered the door and it was my real estate agent. As soon as I realised it was her, I knew it wasn't going to be good news. I thought it was just going to be another noise complaint, but I was actually issued with an eviction notice for too many noise complaints. The last one was made 2 days ago. Obviously my neighbour was home, and she probably called the police and put in a massive complaint about me. We had 6 weeks to find somewhere else to live. On top of this, I had to go and have a meeting at the real estate office as well. After the real estate had left, my anxiety was skyrocketing. I told my flatmate and my other friend that was there what had happened. Everyone's good mood turned dull. While having the meeting with the real estate into the next week, I explained the situation to my agent, but unfortunately, there was nothing else she could do because there were 4 complaints made. I wasn't even aware of 4, I was only aware of 2, all made from the neighbour to my left. There was no chance now of me being able to stay there. I had to move out. After applying for 10 different units, I didn't get accepted for any of them. I was starting to realise that I may just have to move back home for a while, so I told my parents the situation. They weren't happy about it, but they took me back in. I kind of liked the idea though. That way I was far away from everyone and far away from drama. And because my parents lived out of town, no one could just rock up there unannounced. I had to switch my freedom, I guess. After moving back home, my life was becoming drama-free.